All right, here we go. Yes, sir! Come on, let's go! You gotta go! Get down! That boy, Matty! Yes, sir!
Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Dish, joined here by third base coach Dino Ebel. Dino, thank you so much for joining us here. You were made pretty famous even before the regular season started here. When the Dodgers mic'd you up, that was a pretty cool segment talking to the booth up there with SNLA, and I feel like that gave everyone maybe a little more insight into how you like to coach from third base, kind of what you're thinking. What was that experience like for you, and did you kind of realize the reaction that everyone seemed to enjoy it so much?
Yeah, you know, it was great, just giving the fans the insight of how I approach the game, and just talking baseball and what's in the mind of a third base coach. Back in the minor league days when I came up through the Dodger organization, Joe Amalfitano, was the Dodgers third base coach, and that's where I learned most of this stuff from. And he was, the thing that's important for me is coach pitch to pitch, and that experience was great because it just gave the Dodger fans an insight on how I think and how I approach every game. And now we got 3-2, so we're going to be on the run. This is where it gets good for me. If the balls are hit down the line or in the gap, and maybe an outfielder throws it to the wrong base, and JT is going to get a good secondary here. Pujols is playing behind him. Come on, let's go, let's go, let's go! Get down! Hey, Chris! All right, here we go. Yes, sir! Come on, let's go! You gotta go! Let's get down! That boy, Matty! Yes, sir! There's the first and third with the runners running. I love it. We gotta go on the ground here, okay? Line drives, we gotta make sure they're through. This guy's got a wild pitch in his game. We're gonna look for it. It turned out great because that night I kind of was prepared for it, but I didn't realize how this was going to turn out.
Did you hear the reaction? I mean, did people come and tell you, hey, I loved that so much? Right?
Yeah, the next day and that night, I actually got a lot of texts and said, oh my God, I can't believe how good that was. But you know what? It was just me talking baseball, and I just wanted to give the fans how I felt, how I think in a game, and what I look for, and go from there.
You've been doing this for a long time now. How have you changed? Because obviously your role is beyond being a third base coach, but as a third base coach, how have you kind of adapted and changed through the years, would you say?
Well, the game is evolving. So for me, it's always been, being aggressive, setting runners in the right situation. There's always a thought process behind it. Who's the outfielder, who's our base runner, situation of the game, the scoreboard will dictate that. But overall, I've done it for a long time, all in the minor leagues. 10 years at the major league level, and it's just it's a process that I get myself ready for. With all the scouting information, videos, that's a daily process for me, always getting the edge so we can take advantage of scoring runs.
You grew up in Barstow. Obviously, you started your career in the farm system with the Dodgers here. The first regular season game that you're back here, you have the uniform on. What does that feel like for you?
Oh, it was awesome. It was, man, I had the goosebumps, and again, being on the other side of the field, being with the Angels, playing the Dodgers. When you come to Dodger Stadium, it's always special, but growing up in this organization for 17 years and then getting a chance to put that uniform on and being in that third base box and introducing, introductions when they, announce your name, and as a kid and as a minor league player, coach, manager, always sat in that stands and said, one day I want to be in that uniform and coach third base, and that came true, and it was something I'll never forget.
And it was 31 years ago that you started out here in the farm system. You're playing, in your early days in the minor leagues there. Obviously thinking major league aspirations at that point. How did that transition kind of come about from being in the minors, working your way up to this transition into coaching, and how early did you know that this might be a route that you wanted to go?
Well, yeah, your dream's always to put the major league uniform as a player. But about 5 years into the minor leagues, I became a utility guy. And then on the 6th year, they gave me a title of player coach. So I started to realize then that, yes, the dream, you want to get to the major leagues as a player. But as that process was happening, I was always helping the younger kids coming up through the organization, The last few years I was a backup player, so I would help the young prospect and mentally, physically get him prepared for a game. And then when Charlie Blaney at the time was the minor league farm director, he came at me as my free agent year in the minor leagues and said, listen, we think you have a career in coaching. You can opt and go on free agent and maybe get with somebody else. But that's when I started to realize, you know what, I didn't make it as a player, but if I put that uniform on as a coach and get to the big leagues and help the players develop through the system, that's when I started to realize that this can be a major league dream. You
were around some pretty amazing players, future players who would go on to do obviously some great things. You also heard from a lot of cool people. I know you heard from Koufax and Drysdale. When you think back to those 6-7 years in the Dodger system coming up, what are your fondest memories that you hold?
Oh man, going to spring training my first year in 1989 after the '88 season, the Gulf Coast League, and just going into Dodger Town and hearing it through the half the season that I signed, and Johnny Padres was our pitching coach, and then you see the Johnny Roseborals and all the scouts that came in and just talk about the tradition and what it's like to be a Dodger, and then walking into Vero Beach spring training and seeing everybody that you heard throughout your whole life as growing up as a Dodger fan, they're in the same room with you, and you sit there and you listen to stories, and from Koufax to Drysdale to Claude Osteen, names that are Hall of Fame names, Vin Scully, to learn and know what it means to be a Dodger, that's something I'll never forget.
When you ended up going into coaching and transitioning away from your time as a player, did you ever think there was a chance that you may be a Dodger again in some form or fashion? Obviously spent more than a decade with the Angels. Did you think that this could happen at some point?
Well, you never know in this game. Me getting to the big leagues with the Angels, with Mike Scioscia and his staff, with Ron Redenke and Alfredo Griffin, Mickey Hatcher, it felt like I was coming home to the Dodgers because they were all Dodger great players. You always have that in the back of your head. You're in an Angel uniform. I was for 13 years at the major league level, and you give all you have each day to that organization. But when you come to Dodger Stadium and you know the history and you spent 17 years, when you think it was going to be all done with the Angels, and if you get a chance to come back, there was times that you think about it, but never sat there and goes, man, I wish I was back with the Dodgers as I was an Angel coach.
So how did that happen? Can you kind of take us through that? Because obviously Chris Woodward leaves, gets the job with the Rangers as the manager there. How did that whole kind of process take place? Did you know guys well here, coming into this? How did that kind of happen?
Actually, interviewed for the job with the Angels as the manager, Billy Epler. They went with Brad Ausmus. They called me as soon as they announced it and said they wanted me back on the staff as a third base coach. And I was going to go back to coach third base. And then a few days later, Woody got the job to go to Texas. And then I got a call from Billy Epler, said that Andrew Freeman called for permission, and Billy let me do the interview. And then that's history. So when I met with Andrew, Josh Burns, and Doc, they came at me, and I just said, you know what, I'm going to make a decision here, and I'm going to come back to the Dodgers. And when I did the interview process, it went well, so I was convinced that I was going to be a Dodger.
What's been kind of the most refreshing or eye-opening thing about being here, rewarding thing now about being back with the Dodgers? Obviously you're around some other coaches, good coaches, a lot of good players, obviously, with a team here. What's been kind of the most rewarding part of this for you?
Just coming to the park every day. The culture here is unbelievable, which we heard on the other side when I was with the Angels. And with our staff is great, front office staff is outstanding, and they make you feel comfortable coming in this park every day, walking in that major league clubhouse and getting to know everybody now, and heard a lot of great things with them. It's just so much fun for me to come to work and getting to know everybody, working with our staff and our front office people. It's hard to explain because it's given me that energy to come to work every day, and I have a lot of energy, but it's extra now, so I bring it every day.
A lot of people, if you're watching the games, they see you winding guys around home. You get pretty close to home plate. Have you ever been called out for, hey, get back toward third? Has that ever happened for you so far?
No. I get myself in a position to where I can't interfere with the play. So, and that just allows me to give the play more time to develop. And that was one of the things that Joe Malfitano always said, get down the line, let the play develop. You could always stop the runner. He can get back in time so they don't backdoor you at third base. And that's just always been a thing that helps a player. these guys here really, they deserve all the credit because they run through the base. When their goal is, if they're at first and the ball's hit in the gap, they're thinking score. And if they're at second and the ball's base hit to the outfielders, they're thinking to score. It's my job to either send them or stop them. So when they run through bases, it makes my call a lot easier.
Not in time, and the game is tied.
Obviously, we know what this outfield has done defensively, but the infield's been among the elite infield as well. How much pride do you take in what this team has been able to do defensively so far this year?
Well, obviously, it's the players. The players, you know, we got great talent out there with JT and Seager and Kike and Muncy and, you know, Taylor and Freese. So they deserve the credit, but the information that we get is really, really good, and we put it into play. The players trust it. And that's what you're seeing is we go out there with a daily plan and we stick to it, and the results will show for itself.
And the team is obviously performing quite well, which probably makes this a little bit extra fun. But how much fun has this just whole year been like for you and getting to be back here?
Oh, it's been great. I tell my wife all the time, I call her after every game, and just if something else happened today, and you know, I tell her, she can feel the energy that I bring, and I tell her just it's nice to come back. And you know, the team is doing outstanding. We're winning, and the players here, the staff, the front office people treat you with, you know, the most respect, and that's the pride and joy of being a Dodger. That's how I feel.
Maybe we'll see if we can mic you up for a whole game again. Bring back the old times. I think that'd be fun for everyone.
Yeah, anytime I'm good with it. So if they come at me, I'll do it.
Perfect. That's Dino Ebel. Thank you guys so much for joining us on The Dish. We'll see you next time.